Hello fellow brewers, and welcome to another episode of Homebrew Wild and Cheap. So I am starting an experimental brew, mainly because I don't really work on beers and things, so it's all a bit of a new territory. I have done some ginger in the past and it's kind of come out abysmal, but I've learned from my mistakes. So I'm going to mix it up and trying to make a nice recipe, something that, it's a nice easy drinking, hopefully something resembling a beer. So in front of you are the things that I'm going to be using. So we've got our brown sugar. It's the darkest of the dark brown sugar. It's it's really good stuff. It's the closest thing to molasses you're going to get without being molasses, but it's pretty damn close. And I'm using 600 grams of this for my recipe. I've got 2 litres of apple juice because apple and ginger go quite well together along with the spices. So just to mix things up. We've got 400 grams of ginger. Now in the video that we're going to be doing, I'm going to be cutting this up into thin slices to make crystalline ginger at the same time because I've got the ginger and I like crystalline ginger, so I'm going to do both. If you don't want to do that, grate up the whole of the ginger with a cheese grater and then just follow the directions the same. So it's only going to take 40 minutes on a medium simmer and then you can just throw this away, but I want crystalline ginger, which is tasty. I'm going to be mixing in 2 cardamom pods because it gives you a nice little hint of flavour. Some cinnamon, because we love cinnamon. Cinnamon, ginger, apple, all good. We've got ourselves some licorice powder. This is the ground root, and this is going to be our artificial sweetness that we're going to add in. It's just going to be like a teaspoon or 2. It's just so the ginger has a bit of sweetness left in it that can't be fermented without adding sweetener, because we're going to be bottling this, funny that, and turn them into little pressurized tasties. I'm going to be using the juice of 2 oranges, mainly because you need a bit of citrus in. I'm not going overboard with it because I've got the apple juice, so apples, oranges, it's all good. And I've poporridge oats. These are just simple porridge oats. Now the reason I am using porridge oats is in a beer, when you add porridge oats, it gives you a nice creamy mouth texture. It also helps in keeping the head on a beer. Think of Guinness, that has a head on it. They use oats. A little bit. So I'm going to be using 15 grams of oats to add into this sort of mishmash to see how it comes out. Hopefully this should be pretty nice. Either way, I'm going to be making it, so it's an experiment, so fingers crossed it will be good. And all the ingredients individually are awesome, so putting them all together should be fantastic. So let's get started. So, with our ginger, normally you'll get people saying you need to take the skin off and stuff. We're not doing that here. What we're just doing is cutting this up into thin bits, like so. Since the first cook on this is just going to take out most of the harshness and melt the sugars, we can use this to make some tasty caramelized ginger, or crystalline ginger, whichever one you want to call it. So here's all our bits of ginger looking all lovely and yum. Anyway, but they're a bit too fiery at the minute to make into crystalline ginger, so that's why you cook it. So I got 200 grams here of the dark brown soft sugar, and just put the whole lot in. You can tell it's more like a Newtonian fluid than it is a sugar, which is, I'm not going to complain. Also, in goes our 1 cardamom, and just break up bits of the, there we go, cinnamon stick, and then just add enough water just to coat everything, just like so. We're going to take our oats for the last bit. Another 200 grams of sugar. And now we've got all these oranges, which I got bored and cut up, so just squeeze them in. all the little bits. You can add the zest in, but I'm not doing that this time. Well then, just pour in another litre or so. Set back on to boil. So if you're not making this in a gingery fashion, not making a, funny enough, these lovely, hopefully lovely candied ginger, because I really like candied ginger. Candied ginger, good. So anyway, we've got in another 200 grams of sugar, 15 grams of oats in just under 1.2 litres of water to go with the squeezed orange juice from 2 of them. Ooh. Tasty. So 2 oranges, the juice of 2 oranges, and since this is being candied, we've got a licorice root. Okay, so licorice is really good because it has a synthetic sugar. So in theory, this is 1 spoon added in. Don't want it too. Yeah, go on there. 1 spoon and a quarter. Spoon and a third. It is going to make a gallon after all. And this is a good test to see if it works. So it's been on the simmer now for another 30 minutes and stuff looked pretty good. So what I'm basically going to do now is, since I have to let it cool anyway, turn it off, top it up with water, boiled water, just to top it up to the top. Then I'm going to put the lid on and leave this to cool down. Hey guys, so it's the next day and I've heated this back through again just to warm it off from last night, since I ended up playing the PlayStation. So we've got this ginger, which has now been finished. It's nice, it's still fiery, but it's not too fiery. You can eat it without going, ah. But I tried this and I'm kind of underwhelmed how it is, so I'm going to adjust it before we put it in. So here is another 250 grams of ginger, which I am liberally just going to cut up. And plonk the extra 250 grams in. And I'm hoping that this is going to, one, boost its gingeriness, because at the minute it's kind of reminiscent of Coca-Cola. That's the flavour I'm getting. And then ginger after, which isn't a bad thing, but you know, we want ginger beer. Hey guys, so after this morning's adjustments, because I wasn't very happy with the flavour, we've got another pan of uber ginger. So just take a little bit out. It has condensed down slightly, but whoa! See, that's got a nice fiery kick. So when we, funny enough, water it down to make a gallon, bit of ginger. When we water this down to make a gallon, it's going to be, funny enough, about half the strength. So this one, just take a little bit of this. See, it's fiery, but not really that fiery. So apart from the additions of the cardamom and the cinnamon sticks, so that brings our running total of everything is to 600 grams of brown sugar, 100 plus 2, so 400 grams of ginger, 2 cinnamon sticks and 2 cardamom pods. And it does kind of remind me of Coca-Cola. Weirdly, I don't know why. It's probably the brown sugar. So now we've got our lovely bits here. And I've got a water bottle that I've emptied most of the water out of. Whoa! And we're going to pour this in. And we'll make some more adjustments before we add in all the bits and bobs. But the great thing about an experiment is we got to work off bits that we like. So taste is always a good one to work off. So there goes that. But considering that we didn't grate this and we're going to use this for something else, the extra time it took is quite worth it, I think. Alcohol and food. Good food. And fire. So in this goes. And we're not going to be adding pectolase enzyme or amylase enzyme for the starches because, well, we want a beer, so beer is this type of beer. I'm going kind of traditional to hopefully make something good. So I'm going to give this a swirl and give it a try. We want something that tastes really good, nice and light, and relatively quick. So what I'm thinking is I've tasted this and I think it would taste really good with apples. So I happen to have apple juice left over. So let's see. Yeah. So technically this is now a ginger cider. But that's okay. We can live with that. In we go. This is saying that it is 9% on this. So that's pretty good. That's a respectable hardcore cider. So we're at the stage now where we're just going to add in the yeast nutrient and the yeast. Now I'm going to be using universal wine yeast, and that's because that's what I got currently. I'm not going to use bread yeast. You will get about 5%, and I do want this to have some sweetness, but that's why we added licorice, to hopefully keep it a little bit on the end of more sweet, even though it's dry. So it's an experiment, so we'll see what happens. So in goes the yeast nutrient, 1 teaspoon. So, like I said, I'm using the universal wine yeast, and I just need a little bit, just a little smidgen of it. And this does pretty much everything. I mean, it won't have quite the same taste, but that's okay. And now, all we've got to do is label this up, which I can do off the camera, and in about a week, hopefully we'll come back and check this with a hydrometer, because we're going to bottle this, and hopefully we can condition it, and it'll be nice. That is the plan. So thanks for joining for the experimental ginger beer / ginger cider. So hopefully this has been a little bit helpful. So take care, guys.